The phone's working? Good. Because anytime it rains, anything with Frontier is subject to going to hell in a handbasket. That funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on Newswire on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. We're actually on YouTube, I think. That's sometimes a dicey proposition in today's world that we got coming on. Of course, it's Monday. And there's always tons and thousands of stories to come. I mean, I could probably, much to probably your chagrin, I could probably do 6 hours and not even bat an eye of what happens on the weekend anymore of that. But we'll get to the short stuff. Crib notes, anything else. First thing I want to play is, Speedway bike races, the track was not dry enough. They kind of rained it out, or didn't have the track ready. It didn't really rain out, but they're going to reschedule that. So those of you turned in to see Eddie Castro or stuff, they'll be doing that on a makeup date here fairly quickly on that. I just wanted to play this one. And this is at Germantown Speedway in Delaware. And this is what my theme is, why I say never give up. You're going to see Stu Frizon coming in third place. He's in third place on the last lap on a little 3/8 mile track. So I'm going to run this little video here for a few seconds. So here we go.
Turn two. Yeah, lap traffic is playing a part. Not only has his lead shrunk to 3 car lengths over.
There he is coming up. You see him. He's coming into the. Here they're coming to the white flag lap. You'll see him back there in third right now.
1 lap to go.
As he's coming into 3. Now watch him. He's way up there on the high side. You're going across. Now you're going to see him drive off the racetrack. See him clear off the racetrack. Comes back on in the high groove. On the gas. Passes second place. First place bobbles a bit. There he goes. And a photo finish at the line. Stu Frizon comes back from third place on the back straightaway of the last lap. Drives off the track, keeps on the gas, drives it back through 3 and 4, and wins the 50-lap race there in Germantown, Delaware. That's why I say never give up, ever, ever, ever. It's never over till they throw the checkered flag or the lights out, or like they say, the fat lady sings. I'm going to get myself into trouble here lately. But no, I thought that was a great inspirational deal of that. Him not doing that. I think that was if I'm not mistaken, that was a $10,000 to win race back there. So congratulations to Stu Frizon, winner at Germantown Speedway on a very dramatic roll of that. Got a lot of stuff to cover on the dial. I want to get to this one. I'm sure you heard 3 died, 6 severely injured in San Diego. I just wanted to play the clip because this is Andrew Bowen. He's a reporter for PBS down there in San Diego. Apparently there was a drunk driver into San Diego City College in the tunnel of going that. Apparently and you're not hearing this in most of the media, in the dominant media. There's a way he's reporting it. They were all homeless. They hit, it was a suspected drunk driver, but he hit, some people in that, killed 3 of them under the tunnel. Obviously, it looks like, because as you're going to see in the video clip, it's raining. So the homeless were congregated in there. Now, you can't blame it 100%, but accidents are going to happen like this, especially why you don't want people standing, sitting, sleeping as people are driving through tunnels Here is the video number 4, please. You can see it's raining. This is the body of one of the 3 unsheltered San Diegans who were killed by a suspected DUI driver. So there you go. But you're not hearing that was homeless and why we need to. It's not only a public health hazard, and we went through that. It's an endangerment of people sleeping next to the freeway off ramps, under overpasses, while cars are going by, at who knows what, even at 10, 15. I don't care if they're going by at 10 mile an hour through this tunnel, or 40 or 50 or 80 mile an hour down the freeway. It's an endangerment. We need to get rid of this problem. That's why they need to clean these areas up. People should not be sleeping on our sidewalks and that. We've got to have a wholesale change all across the board, or we're not going, we're going to hear more of these stories back and forth, up and down the line. And we don't need to be hearing tragic stories like this each and every day. It's absolutely flippin' ridiculous that we have to go and hear this. We're going to have Jonathan Zackerson of Reopen California Schools coming up in a little bit. Some shocking stories, and I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to let it roll when he gets there. But you're not going to believe what teacher. A lot of you are not going to. If you listen to the show, you're going to believe it. You're not going to believe what teachers are actually getting, demanding, and hijacking from our schools. We'll get to that in about 10 minutes, so stay tuned. But poll numbers on Gavin Newsom and the recall and his job performance and where people are thinking. This is a Nexstar Media Group Emerson College poll. Per that, here's some stunning stats that have come out on the governor's recall. Give me the number 4, please. Do you approve or disapprove of the job Gavin Newsom is doing as governor? Approve, 41.8%. Disapprove, 40.3%. Unsure or no opinion, 17.9%. That is a stunning deal and goes back to where we had it before. He's barely over 40% approval rating. You can almost say the disapprove at 40% and unsure at 18 are pretty much at there. You can almost sure the unsure or no opinion are on the disapprove side, and we'll get into the stats more into that. If this gets on the ballot, there's a very good chance it's going to get on the ballot. And as the poll numbers keep deteriorating for Gavin Newsom, and if you don't quit buying the lie, the big lie, oh, everything's all right, or sucked in, or get into the fear or buy into the fear campaign that Gavin Newsom, Joe Biden, Andrew Cuomo, and the rest of the crew, George Gascon, the whole lot of them are buying it, or that are feeding you to keep you on your, to keep you on the plantation and keep you as slaves. You don't buy that, there's a very good chance this guy goes out the window. Here we go. Give me number 4, please. The next poll number. Do you approve or disapprove of the job Gavin Newsom has done on managing the COVID-19 pandemic in California? Approve, 45%. I'd like to talk to you. Disapprove, 43.7%. Unsure or no opinion, 10.9%. There you go. Another one on that. He's below 50% on approving of the way he hits his approval on the way his handling of COVID-19. So this is where you're looking at on Gavin Newsom. He's below 50% on everything that would be that he would have his support. He tries to claim, and he did on a KQED interview on Friday, oh, it's the Trump, it's those straight white males, those Trumpers. They're trying to recall me. On and on. We'll get to that in a second. They're the ones that are out to get me. He's trying to frame it as, oh, it's the vast right-wing conspiracy. The conservatives, those white supremacists are the ones that are doing this. No, it isn't. Number 4, please. There's currently an effort to recall Governor Gavin Newsom. Would you vote to recall or keep Governor Gavin Newsom? Vote to recall 38%. Vote to keep Governor Newsom for only 42%. Undecided 13.3% would not vote in the election. 6.9. So you can throw those out. So he's still, even if you throw those out, he's still 42% are only voting to keep him as governor of the state of California. That does not bode well for Gavin Newsom going forward, because when you are below 50% and you were at 60 plus not only 3 or 4 months ago, and everybody were, the vast majority, not everybody, the vast majority were singing your praises. No, Governor Newsom, he's so cute. I just can't. If he told me to stand upside down on my head and it would get rid of coronavirus, I would do it 24 hours a day. Now it's, can we throw that blankety blank, lion blankety blank out of office, and none too soon? Because here is the coup de grace, as they say in France. Number 4, please. Regardless of the recall effort, would you vote to re-elect Governor Newsom in 2022, or do you think it's time for someone new? Re-elect Governor Newsom, 41.7%. Time for someone new, 58.3%. Even if the recall doesn't go down, 58% of Californians are saying, get rid of him. He's gone. He's only got 42% that are supporting him as governor. This guy is falling like a rock. And that you, like an asteroid coming down, getting ready to crash into Earth, is how fast this guy is falling. Now is the time to keep the pressure on. Do not buy the lie or that on this, and get to the point of, we're gonna throw you a cookie, and we're going to it's all going to go away. We forgive you, Gavin. You gave us a $600 stimulus check. You're great again, and all this. No, he has destroyed the California economy. He is absolutely got to go. Not only the French Laundry business is telling us not to do it. You guys stay at home. I'm the one who's in charge here. You get to stay home. I get to party hard, eat $1,000 a plate dinner. That right there says it all about Gavin Newsom. We'll play a little. We're going to have Jonathan Zackerson of Reopen California Schools coming up here in a second. He had some very stunning revelations on their site. You can look at the social media sites, Reopen California Schools. I think on Facebook, Twitter, and probably some other ones on that. We've been telling you, teachers unions, they represent the teachers, and they're all about the money. Follow the money trail. I couldn't believe the posts I was seeing. Teachers getting $6,000 in the stimulus bill, going to trips on Hawaii, and I think even the Desert Sands, correct me if I'm wrong, was the one that kicked this off of getting all the goodies. But it seems like every 10 minutes he's posting another one of a teachers union representative that's posting all this stimulus money, that whatever $200 billion that's coming in, and you're getting, our schools are getting reopened. It's going right into the pockets of teachers. To tell us more about it, Jonathan Zackerson of California, Reopen California Schools. Welcome to IE Newswire with Roy.
Thank you for having me.
I couldn't believe it. $6,000 bonus, trips to Hawaii for teachers. That's where the stimulus money is going. Explain.
Yeah, so those were some proposals. In Clovis there, I've been told by people involved, that especially now, that is not going to happen. But there's a compensation committee who is reviewing this and negotiating what to do. And I think you can see in some of those emails, they're saying that there's this influx of state and federal dollars. And so they're proposing this they were proposing a $6,000 bonus is what's being reported. And so, I think that's shocking to a lot of people. The other one that was proposed by the union was $2,500, and they talked about going on trips to Hawaii, babysitting, or daycare, right, for their children, which, mind you, are not all, in a normal situation, that's fine, right? But the fact is, it seems really tone deaf to the struggles that a lot of families have been going through, right? Many families had to quit their jobs to be home with their kids. And we were told that we needed this money from the federal government to open schools safely. And probably the biggest atrocity isn't so much that, teachers are getting part of the pie, but the fact that in all of these areas that were posted, none of them were back full time. And they don't plan to go back full time. All of their plans were, maybe they'd get 10 hours at most a week in the classroom. And so students and families are still having to deal with the struggle of distance learning, despite all of this money going in. And I think that's the disconnect there, is that, there's parents struggling. We need to get our kids back in school. We need this money for programs to help curb learning loss. And it didn't appear that any of it was going to go towards that.
So let me get this straight. They're going to get up to $6,000 in bonuses for going back to school or having the kids back sometime in the classroom. Maybe trips to Hawaii. And it's not going to be 5 days a week, 7 hours a day. It may be, as I understand the LA proposal, the kids may be in the classroom, but the teachers are going to be zoomed in and not going to be in the classroom. I mean, this is mind-blowing.
It's insanity, and that's exactly what's going on with Desert Sands. I know a mom there, her son is in special ed, and, when you look at that situation, they only allow 3 people in the classroom. The teacher's not even there. The teacher's zooming in, and then they're paying for an aide to be in the classroom to help assist with the Zoom. I mean, obviously the money is going to go to pay for the aide. The program is ridiculous, but I think, we want teachers back in the classroom, and I think for the teachers and the aides and the cafeteria workers and all those people that have been back, full time, thank you for those. And if anything, I feel like those employees that have been back full time should be getting a larger share of, if we're going to be offering bonuses, they should be getting a larger piece because they've been back this whole time. If we're going to be spending this money and teachers are going to be getting this extra amount, we want to make sure it's ensuring our kids are back in the classroom getting a proper education. And that simply isn't happening in these districts that you saw this. And in fact, I just got a report here. I have to validate it, but it sounds like Oakland is doing the same thing. I don't know their plan, but they're offering over $2,000 to get back in the classroom.
I mean, I don't know how far you go back, but I brought it up many times back in the early 80s when Ronald Reagan first came in as president, and we had the air traffic controllers, and they were striking, and they struck and said, well, they thought, heck, we'll bring this thing to his knees. Reagan said, either get back to work or you're fired. They didn't come back. He fired. Not one accident was attributed to them replacing the workers. I think it's time now with this whole deal to put the foot in the sand. Either teachers, you come back to work, and the classrooms are open. You either get your butts back in the class and teach, or we will find somebody else that can.
Yeah, Burbio tracks this, and California is dead last in getting kids back in the classroom, and not even by a small margin. The median is about 75, on this index. So about 70% of the kids are back in the classroom, learning in person. California, it's 14.2. It's ridiculous. And, we've had Oregon, which is really low. Their governor has now mandated that students open back. Massachusetts is now doing the same thing because there's no other way to deal with some of these powerful unions that are refusing a regular model. And so, Governor Newsom, he needs to take that same action. Will I think he will? No. But that's what he needs to do, right? Just like you said with Reagan.
Yes, it is. I mean, we're to the point of there, and it is. Teachers are running the show on this whole deal. They're calling the shots of this, and I framed it as a lot of people try to distance it or say it's teachers' unions of this, but they only represent the teachers. And we had one teacher that said 85% of his deal watched it, and they voted not to go back to the class, and he was the only one that spoke up of that, and he got shot down. The other 15 that wanted to go back to class wouldn't say anything. So this is what you're getting of this. I mean, they're so powerful, they're choking off the voices of those that do want to go back to class. Mm-hmm. So I think we're getting to the point of having no alternative but to say, hey, you either get back in class or you're fired. We'll get somebody else in here.
We need dramatic action, that is for sure. There needs to be some sort of mandate. AB 86 failed to do that, and we definitely need something dramatic to happen. And I can tell you, going to go on a go-forward basis, there's going to be dramatic action taken from the citizens of California to make sure this never happens again through getting some sort of, school choice voucher program to make sure that, we need that on the ballot. So that's going to happen.
It is. We're absolutely in this situation like that. Is there any more, or what do you see coming down the lines of that? Because even Newsom's running a little bit. I mean, he's trying to put, if we're feeling this recall heat, I think a little bit. He's trying to drop counties back into the red tier because they were doing that. But ultimately, I don't think, from the evidence I'm seeing, teachers are just flat resisting going back to class in droves. I mean, they just don't want to go. I don't know if they're getting that. And why did they deserve a bonus for the majority of them are not going to be in the class anyway, or not going to be doing, or not going to be 5 days a week, 7 hours a day in class? What justification do they have for getting these ridiculous bonuses?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, so when they play devil's advocate, they're saying, well, these models of this distance learning is actually harder, and they're spending more time working. And then that very well may be true, and I'm not going to discount that. The problem is the model doesn't work, and it's tone deaf to the fact that families and parents are working harder. That kids, they're being, we're failing our kids. And so the money was meant to try to catch up the learning loss and get programs for these kids. And maybe we do summer school, right? If we're going to pay teachers because we have to have them get paid, work longer, then that money should be tied to them actually working longer. In a lot of these plans, it was a retroactive bonus that says, hey, we're just going to give you this bonus because we have surplus funds, and to suggest that we're going to give you this extra money that the government just gave us and to go to Hawaii, or we know that 80-90% of you are vaccinated but are refusing to return to work. Don't do that, not because it's immoral or wrong, but because it's bad optics. I mean, that's kind of a note that was missed in that screen grab there. But that was mentioned as well, and so I guess, dramatic action has to be taken. I guess that's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm to the point of that, and I would say if this distance learning is so hard and it's causing you more work, then why wouldn't you want to get back into the class? If it's better for everybody, it's causing you less work. The kids are going to
Exactly.
get a better education. All this stuff, it makes no sense. That argument that you play devil's advocate, if that's what they're trying to make, makes absolutely no logical sense.
Yeah, and I would say that for teachers that are back, so in California there are public schools, not a lot, but there are some that have been back full time for a while now. And even when you talk to the teachers who are a little bit apprehensive at first, now that they're back, they recognize, hey, it's safe, right? The protocols that are there are safe. They haven't seen the outbreaks, and they are getting much more satisfaction from their job because they're teaching in person to students that are engaged and doing well. So it's a win-win for everybody, and I just wish this would be recognized amongst the union leadership. And because, like you said, sometimes it's the teacher, sometimes it's the teacher unions, and sometimes both. I'll just give an example of where it's not the same. In Brentwood, California, the teacher union polled their teachers, and only according to that poll, only 30% wanted to go back. Well, the district conducted their own survey a week later, and 80% of classified staff wanted to come back. So there's a huge disconnect in what some of these, were going on with some of these surveys. A lot of, like you said, a lot of people who want to go back are afraid to speak out, depending on how powerful their union is. And so it's not truly representative of their members, and that's part of the problem.
Yes, I mean, again, they've wielded this kind of power not only amongst their union members, but as I pointed out many times, in the past 10 years, California Teachers Association has donated $200 million to political candidates, far outdwarfing any PAC, anything else on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big a stick, not only do they carry amongst their membership that against or to hold over the heads of the politicians, and this is why they're getting bonuses for doing this. Well, yeah, if they are, let's take, for example, if they are, we only got a couple minutes left, but if they are having more work on that, doing the distance learning, and well, we need bonuses for that, well, why don't we just scrap this whole thing, get back into the cloud, and everything will be hunky-dory.
Exactly, and I think that's really the damage being done. A lot of parents be willing to have extra money go to teachers for working harder, but they're not getting anything out of it, and they're not being listened to. And they really need it. For those that need it, they need their teachers back in the classroom with them.
We got about a minute left. I'll let you tell them where they can find you on the whole World Wide Web social media network, and how they can join up if they want to get their kids back in class. Go, Jonathan.
Yeah. So the best place is probably our Facebook groups. It's Reopen California Schools. It's a green background with a white school. And then you can follow us on Twitter. I think that's a great place to see where we push out a lot of this information. We've got a lot of traction, and that's at Reopen CA Schools.
You got it. Thanks for being on. We'll do it again real soon, Jonathan.
Oh, thank you.
Jonathan Zackerson of Reopen California Schools with the stunning report of what teachers across California are demanding, where that stimulus, 280 or 290 or $300 billion that they passed in Congress, they said are going to schools. No, they're going to teachers to keep them out of the class. That's the bottom line on this deal. That's where your tax dollars are taking you. They're taking money out of your pocket and putting in theirs, and they don't care. This can be no blatantly clearer each and every day as we go on this. I mean, you wonder why Newsom's in trouble. You wonder why Newsom sit there between a rock and a hard place. Let me get that out right. He's sitting there saying, well, teachers union saying we don't want to go back in class. Parents are screaming at him, we want our kids back in school. Well, he's trying to negotiate this. No wonder he's down 40% in approval ratings and dropping, and about to be the second governor recalled in California. Wouldn't that be something? Within 20 years, we have the chance to recall 2 governors in California. That is stunning. That's a stunning development, really. And kind of a sad commentary of where we are in our society on that. We'll be coming back on after the bottom of the hour. We'll have Dr. Kelly Victory on. We'll update get her weekly update on all the COVID happenings and all that other stuff. We usually do we try to do it Monday if she's available. If not, we'll do it on Tuesday and Wednesday. But some, again, more stunning revelations that came across from the COVID concerns of going on. But nothing could have made me happier than seeing those poll results on Gavin Newsom. 2 million plus signatures. The last of them will be coming in, I think Wednesday is the last drop deadline, and there should be over 2.1, maybe 2.2 million to recall Gavin Newsom. Really shady shenanigans, and don't put that past them.
1 minute.
The election will be on. We have to stay strong and make sure we seal the deal and get out of Gavin's gulag, because we cannot, unless you want to keep paying. You want to keep paying $6,000 bonuses to teachers unions, so your kids can't be. Your kids may be in class, but the teacher will be zoomed in, 10 hours a week. What are they going to be doing the rest of the time? The whole
30 seconds.
The whole Fauci thing with, well, maybe kids are 3 foot is not as good, and 5 and 6 and 10 and 2 foot are absolutely ridiculous of what's going on this whole deal. But we'll have it all in our next half hour on
Here we go.
COVID
10 seconds. Calm.
OEM Supply King. We got it!
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not...
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Joining our vast video audience on IE Newswire, on Facebook, Twitch, and we are still on YouTube, which is a minor miracle. Coming forward on that, we covered the homeless, and you're not hearing it much in the dominant media, but NPR and a PBS station down there is reporting it. It was the home situation that we have there and why we need to clean that situation up. The absolute great poll numbers. Newsom's going down. 40%, only 40% of Californians approve of him. 58% said they would vote Newsom out of office in 2022, much less on, and probably about close to the same percent will do it on the recall very soon to a ballot box near you. And hopefully he will be the second governor recalled in less than 20 years in California. And I will just go ahead and look it up. See which party the recalled governors from California. It might be stunning of what happens. But as we usually do once a week, we get it from the supreme physician in the whole world, in my opinion, and 100% absolute greatest expert on everything COVID-19, because I haven't found one thing she's been wrong on in the past over a year we've been dealing with this head-banging crisis. Pretty soon, I'm going to have to go to Dr. Kelly Victory because I'm going to beat my brains out over this whole pandemic. Gavin's gulag, Biden's jail cell we've been in. But Dr. Kelly Victory, welcome to IE Newswire with Roy.
Hey, Roy, thanks for having me back. And I agree, it is a head-banging crisis that has gone on for far too long.
That's your trauma surgeon skills.
Yeah.
When you're going to have to put me back together on this whole enchilada going through. I want to start with Dr. Scott Gottlieb was on Face the Nation, and they did ask him a good question, and he kind of danced around a little bit. But they asked, Italy's starting to lock down over these new variants. You think we're going to come in? And he says, well, there could be, and Europe has been like a 2 or 3 week leading indicator, but maybe not because we got the vaccine coming in. Are they setting us up on another deal of another lockdown deal, just as they're about to open up. I mean, I'm starting to see the signs of they're going to come up with some sort of, oh, we don't know about these new variants and all that. What do you think?
Well, I think there's no question, Roy, that they may be heading that way. I think it is misguided, as could be, because we know, first of all, we know that the lockdowns simply do not work. There's a reason historically we have never relied on lockdowns to respond to any pandemic. And let's face it, we've had quite a few previous to this one, but we've never used lockdowns because, number one, they don't significantly impact the spread of the virus, and number two, they do far, far more damage than they do good. Far more people end up dying from things unrelated to the virus than would ever be saved by that. But all of that said, yes, I think that they do continue to play in some of these rolling lockdowns. We've seen it certainly in California, and we've seen it in other parts of the world, and they simply refuse to follow actually the data, which is that the places that haven't done the lockdowns, to wit, in the United States, it's places like Texas and Florida and South Dakota. Those places that didn't go into hard lockdown fared far, far better than the places that did.
Just take Gavin, Gulag Gavin. I could not fathom a better outcome, and I don't know if you've seen the poll numbers from KORN Channel 4 up in San Francisco. He's in the 40%. Approve of his handling of COVID, on the recall. Would we vote for you in 2022? Will we vote for you in the recall to keep you in? All in the 40s. And of this, I could not fathom that Gulag Gavin would order another lockdown while he's facing a recall from the vast majority now of Californians are saying we're done with this stuff.
Yes, they are. And I think what you're seeing here now is real crisis fatigue, Roy. Many people have been disgusted and frustrated and disillusioned with Gavin Newsom far predating the COVID pandemic. People were unhappy about things like homelessness and drug use and the state of the healthcare system and immigration. But it's his response to the COVID pandemic that I think has really put the nail in his coffin. Likewise, you're seeing that with Andrew Cuomo in New York. Many people were unhappy with Cuomo, and I don't think for a minute that these sexual harassment claims would by themselves be enough to result in his ouster. But it's his response to the pandemic and his horrific dealing with the nursing home situation there, and then his attempt to cover up that information that has sounded the death knell for him. So I think that what you've gotten to a point where people, despite what you're hearing from a Scott Gottlieb or an Anthony Fauci, people are able to connect the dots themselves. And they look and say, wow, we have Governor Kristi Noem up in South Dakota or Ron DeSantis in Florida. Those states are doing really well. They're managing to come out of this pandemic without the devastation that we are in California or in New York, and they are finally starting to hold, despite what Gavin Newsom might want to believe, that these are just Republicans and conservatives and, right-wing conspiracy theorists who want him out. That's not what the polls show. There are a fair number of liberals, of Democrats, and of people who are unaffiliated who are saying, we're done with this. We can't tolerate another lockdown. We won't tolerate not having our kids back in school. We won't tolerate that you refuse to stand up to the teachers union, and they're done with it.
This is what we call evidence to back up what Dr. Kelly Victory is saying. If you look at that, 58% are saying we would not vote for Gavin Newsom in 2022. We only support him by 40%. If you add up all the declined estaters and Republican registered voters in the once great state of California, you will not get to 58%. So even if every Republican and declined estater, no party preference, was included in that. 8%. So as the recall Gavin2020.com folks have reported, 38% by their figures of the 2 million plus signatures, 38% are from no party preference and Democrats coming in, Dr. Kelly.
Yeah, and what you see here, Roy, is that people are really wedded to their own personal politics up until that point when they start really hurting and their family starts starving to death. And then they start saying, wow, this isn't working. So they will stand by their guy until they and their own family starts to really suffer. And I think that that's what you're seeing. As we now have gone one full calendar year now, again, without kids back in school, when the lockdowns continue, mask mandates continue. We're seeing, these ridiculous demands by the teachers' unions, and no one, Gavin Newsom, isn't pushing back on that and saying, since when does defunding the police or demanding a higher quality tree canopy, when does that factor into a discussion about COVID in the classroom? When people are really saying we can't do this anymore. The number of small businesses now that have closed that will never reopen. And this is all without, a significant impact on the spread of the virus. If we get back to what we should be looking at, are people getting sick? Are people getting hospitalized? Are people dying from COVID? And what are we doing to manage that? And instead, what we're seeing is just more doubling down of these policies that have translated into nothing more than economic, psychosocial devastation.
We had Jonathan Zackerson of Reopen California Schools on earlier, just before you came on. And we were talking about the teachers coming in. They're demanding $6,000 bonuses, trips to Hawaii to come back, and they're not coming back into schools. Of that, they're either only going to be in 10 hours a week, or they're going to be zoomed in while the kids are sitting in class. I don't know how the hell that works. But then Fauci CDC, I guess, said, well, maybe kids can be within 3 feet of each other if they have a mask on. Well, maybe that, and I'm looking at it, and yada, yada, da, 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 da. I mean, again, I'm going to be in your operating table, and you're going to be trying to put my head back together.
Well, Fauci's answer on that was so patently absurd. As you know, I have said from the very beginning, and when I say very beginning, I mean February of 2020, when we started down this road, that the concept of social distancing is totally made up. That is a construct that does not exist in the scientific literature. You can pick any book on epidemiology, virology, public health, pandemic planning off the shelf in my library, and if it was written prior to March of 2020, you cannot find the phrase social distancing in there. The 6 foot is totally made up, yet people report it. There's stickers on the floor of every grocery store and in the airport and all over the place, somehow scientifically based. Well, now, fast forward to a study that came out of Massachusetts last week that said, where they looked at virus transmission, and they said, wow, lo and behold, they found no difference in viral transmission, or 3 feet of separation. Well, here's the spoiler alert. If they'd done the study, they wouldn't have found any difference between 6 feet and 0 feet. Okay, isn't a thing. It does not decrease viral spread or viral transmission, and unfortunately, although I would love it to be different, neither do masks. Masks don't stop the spread either. So the good news is we know who is truly at risk from this virus. We know what the risk factors are, and we can do the things we need to do to rally around and protect that relatively small group of people who is in the high risk category from COVID-19. And the rest of the people should get back to work, get back to school, take off the masks, and stop this silliness of social distancing, whether it's 6 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet, or some other random number you want to throw out there.
It was, and one of the things, and I had to go to the grocery store and a couple of places around to do that this weekend. Not only, like you say, people are voting with their feet. They're out and about. They're just saying the heck with that. But I noticed, those little 6 foot X's were gone. the little partitions are where you herded into one little deal and then went to each one and they had a deal. We're gone. You could walk up to, right, if there was an open register, or whatever line you wanted to get into, you were in there. I mean, it's just, people are like you say, you could see the evidence of people with the crisis fatigue, the fear mongering, everything. They're just done with it. They're figuring, well, if we're gonna have to live like this, something, I don't know, but maybe we're getting our spirit back a little bit.
Well, I certainly hope so, because I think it's time for people to push back against the irrational fear. And again, I am not saying that COVID-19 isn't a real virus. I have personally had patients die from it. I've personally had patients admitted to the hospital and to the ICU, largely because they ended up in places when they got sick where they could not avail themselves of early treatment. All the patients I treat very, very early with drugs like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and steroids and azithromycin and medications that actually work when used early. So people need to get over the irrational fear and the idea that there's nothing that they can do other than hope to hell they don't contract this virus and get vaccinated, because that's not the truth. And currently I'm stuck in Colorado, where I got stuck with this big snowstorm. I am flying out tomorrow, and I guarantee you when I go to Denver Airport, I will be asked to stand probably now 3 feet from the other people in line before I board. When I flew out here 3 days ago, it was 6 feet, but now it's miraculously, maybe the virus is getting tired too and can't jump as far. So it can only jump 3 feet now. But I will be forced to stand 3 feet or 6 feet apart from somebody else in the line before I board a plane, and I will sit 2 inches from somebody for 2.5 hours. I mean, the silliness of this is really the fact that somebody can't see how ridiculous this is logic.
I want to run this by you because this is what I said, or, you got to switch on the fly, but I was at the Riverside County Board of Supervisors last Tuesday, and they had their comments, but you get your 2 minutes, when there's too many people, whatever, coming in. But this is how you shift on the fly, because Supervisor Chuck Washington, which represents the Temecula area around down there, or the greater Temecula area, said, I was talking to some third graders, and I said, you were the first ones that ever endured a pandemic and all this other da-da-da-da. And I walked up to the deal, and I said, well, in 1968, I was in the 3rd grade, and there was a thing called the Hong Kong flu that went around. I think it killed about 100,000. I said, listen carefully. By using the CDC numbers, only about 30,000 have died of COVID only, and we didn't lock down anything. We went along with our lives as it was, and, life went on. We all didn't die. We all didn't disappear. We're here, 30, 40 years later. And so why, again, what is amazing, and sometimes I don't even know if they're conscious of what they're doing, but the fear mongering and stuff they're getting fed, and then they feed it on to little kids, is criminal in my opinion.
I agree with you. And I think it's actually worse than doing things that are simply instilling fear and are useless. You could say, wear garlic around your neck and it'll keep the vampires away. And you say, okay, well, that's a relatively harmless thing doing in response to the COVID-19 pandemic are far from harmless, like mask wearing. This constant mask wearing is not without harm. Not only are there significant psychosocial impacts, think about the, young children, for example, toddlers who are in their formative years when they learn to read facial expressions, when they learn to understand the fact that autistic people and people with hearing impairments, people with social anxiety are suffering. There's a huge physical component to it. The fact that people are not meant to breathe in the very pathogens that they just coughed or sneezed out. Part of the function of your lung is to expel dust and pollen and particulate matter. So these things are not, without said over and over, have caused far more damage by an order of magnitude. The tens of thousands of people who didn't have their cancer diagnosed, the tens of thousands of people who skipped kidney dialysis, didn't get cancer treatment, didn't take care of their diabetes or their heart disease, the number of people who have fallen into depression and substance abuse, UNICEF itself did a study months ago predicting that upwards of 200 million children would die of starvation worldwide as a result of the lockdowns. Not of the virus. They're not going to die of the virus. They're going to die of starvation because of disruptions in the food chain from the lockdown. So the damage we are doing is by an order of magnitude far greater than would ever have been suffered by some virus, for which, frankly, we have more and more early treatment options.
Yeah, I mean, you as a physician probably know this better than anybody. There is no real saving of lives. There's only the hours you get between A and B. And medical science, vaccines, or anything else may be able to extend that time. But as you're pointing out, and we've pointed out many, many times, you have, I have, and many others, is that, okay, maybe they're extending a few lives, but they're shortening the vast majority of lives of a lot of people, a whole heck of a lot. And then when you have to make that choice, which one do you do? I mean, I would make the choice to give the vast majority much more time. I mean, it's a sad choice to have to make that, but I mean, sometimes it comes down to the plain numbers of what you're sitting with. And we got to deal realistically with what is going on, and I think that's kind of what you're winding around to.
Exactly. So I think if you add together the things that we are doing that are not only not effective but are actually harmful, those things like masks and social distancing and lockdowns, then you add that along with this unbelievable repression of the information on early treatment, the fact that people have not been able to get a hold of those inexpensive, time-tested, very safe drugs like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine that have been around for decades and decades and decades, and instead people have been sent home to take Tylenol and sort of this wait-and-see approach. And then you add on top of that these highly experimental vaccines, and from all the conversations we've had, Roy, that I am generally very, very pro-vaccine. I'm certainly not an anti-vaxxer. But the idea that we would launch, none of which are FDA approved, all of them being used just under emergency use authorization, under the premise that we must do that because, there's no other treatment, which is a lie. There absolutely are other treatments. And if we used them the way they did in other countries, we would have very different numbers in terms of people having succumbed to this, including our elderly. So it's really the combination of things that are being done. The idea that we have kept kids out of school, children who are at virtually zero risk from COVID. They not only don't get it and get sick from it, but they aren't vectors for it to others, including teachers or other people who work in the school. They don't bring it home to mom and dad. We know that. We've known that for the better part of a year now. So when you add all these things together, it really begs the question of who is making these decisions and why. And I am not a conspiracy theorist, but I do believe this will go down in history as the greatest public health debacle of our lifetimes.
On that note, thanks for being on.
Did that make your head feel better?
I don't know if we can take any more of that. No, seriously. We'll do it again real soon. Thanks for being on, Dr. Kelly.
Sounds great. Thanks, Roy.
Dr. Kelly Bearcoat there at the end, but it really is true. And I've said it many times. You can't, try using a 3/8 wrench to get a 7/8 bolt off. And, I mean, that's what seems like we're trying to do in this whole thing, going back and forth. But flip me up number 4, please. I want to get to this. This is why Gavin Newsom knows his ass is grassed. California Governor Gavin Newsom launches a campaign against likely recall on that. That's on Fox News 11 on that. Yeah, he started his own campaign site. That he's starting to raise money, and who's going to raise it from is the teachers unions and the police unions and the fire department and everybody else on that, and he's going to shake down businesses that think they're dependent on him. Now is the time to resist. And all of you public employee and regular union members, you have the right to opt out and not have your money go to political campaigns. please do that. If you don't even if you don't want to stand up front on that, just sign the deal that says my money, you're not taking money out of my paycheck and running it in political campaigns. That will do a lot to help us in this process of recalling Gavin Newsom coming up. So again, this is going to be all hands on deck. There's going to be a lot of fun in this. Political campaigns, as we know, are always messy, dirty, but they're inevitable if you want to maintain your freedoms. If you want to maintain the opportunity, and even of those of you who like the lifestyle you had prior to March of 2020 and want to get back to that point, it's all hands on deck. Recall California. Recall Gavin Newsom will be the shot fired across the other 49 states. We will go in, we will clean out the dead wood, no matter if they're Democrat or Republican, in the House and the Senate, and then get a president back in 2024 that's going to cut taxes, going to stop trade policies, secure our borders, clean up the homeless, because we don't want to have to read about 25 people packed in an SUV, or homeless getting run over, killed in San Diego because they're sleeping right next to the road in a bridge underpass. These things have got to stop. They will not stop under Joe Biden. We'll cover it tomorrow, of his new proposals coming out. You know what that little $1,400 stimulus check is going to cost you, on top of what's going to cost you for what you're going to get to what you're going to have to pay back? Tax increases are coming by the boatload. Who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. We will have, for those of you, and I got to admit, around when this happened the last time, so we will bring out maybe and some of the things, because really, history's about ready to repeat itself. And maybe as the Ollie rope-a-dope strategy, sometimes you got to lay on the ropes and take the punches for a little bit. But as George Foreman found out, when your arms were wore out and you couldn't hold them up, you were the one that got knocked out. That's what we'll be doing here, hopefully, in the near future. So, catch a replay. I'm running them at 9:30 at night now on that. If you don't catch the replay, be back here in 23 hours for the best news and views and commentary in the whole wide